Today we're going to be learning Beitzah Daf Kaf Daled. Today's daf is sponsored by a Hava leaf tag in memory of her grandmother, Hilda Morgenstern, Alaa Shalom, on her yurt site, who often remarked at how much women's learning had grown in her own time. I know she'd be thrilled about the Hadran community, and also for her grandfather, Arthur Morgenstern, who shares her yurt site, who cheered on his children and grandchildren to tackle any challenge. I miss you both. Okay, I also want to announce that we've been tax deductible for a while, whether it's donations abroad in the United States and Canada. Now we finally received Farber B'Shesh, which is Israeli tax deductible status, which is a big excitement. And it also means that we should be able to get also, we just have to, after the holiday, we'll get some things arranged, but we should be able to also end up receiving tax deductible donations in the UK. So that's also, I know that'll be very helpful for people. So anyway, I wanted to share that exciting news. And with that, we will get started with our daf. So we saw at the end, we started the third chapter yesterday. One is not allowed to trap animals, okay? Whether we're going to talk now about which animals one can trap from what place. So when it's fish, we can't take fish out of a pool because we're not talking about a pool like in your house, but some sort of, small body of water, because the fish still need trapping. The idea here, and this is, I mentioned, it's in Gefet this week. So if you haven't listened, listen, it's all about basic topics about Ochel Nefesh and whether one can say whether Ochel Nefesh is clearly not anything is permitted for the purposes of food. It's limited. And one of the ways in which it's limited is one is not allowed to trap the animal. You can only slaughter the animal, but you can't do the trapping. Why that is, so again, I mentioned yesterday, it's a debate Rashi Tosfot and debate among other commentaries as well, what exactly the issue is. So in Gefet, they discuss specifically Rashi and Tosfot, whether it's Rashi who says it's only things that need to be done that day, but not that you could easily do it before. So if you could trap it before, better to trap it before. It won't affect the quality of the food. If it will affect the quality of the food, like once you slaughter it, and again, without refrigeration or anything, you can see why that would make a difference. Tosfot quoted a different reason, that because it's like the ktsira in the field when you cut the crop, and that isn't allowed, so this also is not. Then you have to figure out, why is that not allowed? And why did they draw the line there? Right? Maybe because it's harder labor, right? Unclear exactly, but that's another possibility. And then the question is from what melachot are permitted? And then there's also a debate. Is it just ktsira is forbidden, or is it all of the things until you get to lishan, the kneading and the actual dealing with the food, but not all, what stage of preparation is a problem? So in any case, let's just assume, okay, for all the different possible reasons, or either one of or the different possible reasons, but trapping is a problem. The question is, what is defined as trapping? Right? It's only if the animal isn't already somewhat trapped. So therefore, if fish are in a pool, to capture, to basically trap them would be a malacha, right? That would be forbidden, also on Yantif. Because they kind of eat on their own, right? They find their own food. They're not reliant on you for food, so therefore you're not allowed to feed them. There's a different issue. This is it's somewhat connected. Because they're not really trapped, they're not really yours, and they're not your responsibility to feed them. However, if you have an enclosed area where in that area you have birds or undomesticated animals, you can take them from there to slaughter them, because even though now it's called sad, but it means you can trap them, but that's because they're already trapped. So your action of trapping isn't really considered trapping. Because they're reliant on you for food, right? And they were also kind of designated for you already from before. So we can't feed anything that's muktzah, but these were designated for you before. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Now it's unclear, is Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagreeing with Tanakama or not? We're going to get to this in the Gemara, although we won't really have an answer, but he says, Lo kol habebarim shavim. Okay, not all enclosures are the same for the halacha. Zeh haklal, this is the rule. Kol hamechusar tzeda asur, v'she'eno mechusar tzeda mutar. If you still need to capture it, then it's going to be forbidden. If you don't really still need to capture it, then it's permitted. He doesn't really explain where we draw the line. What does it mean? Mechusar tzeda, not mechusar tzeda. And is this any different from the rabbis? The rabbis just said bebarim. But maybe the rabbis also would distinguish between different types of beibarin, because the concept he seems to be saying is the same concept that Tanna Kama says, which is, again, you're going to trap something only if it's already been trapped, then it's going to be allowed. If it's not already trapped, so that would be the same as mechusar tzeda, not mechusar tzeda. So it's a little confusing. Is there a disagreement or is there not? And if he's coming to just clarify what exactly is he saying, also not so clear. So we'll get to all that in the Gemara. But the first thing the Gemara brings up is a contradiction. There's a source that is directly opposed to our Mishnah in two cases. Our Mishnah talked about three things: fish, birds, and undomesticated animals. Birds and undomesticated animals were in the same category, where one said once they're in an enclosed area, they're considered trapped already. This Beitzah is going to say the exact opposite about the birds and the undomesticated animals. Beibarin shel chaya v'shel afot ein sadim mehem b'yom tov ve'ein notnim lifnehem mizonot. One is not allowed to trap animals or birds in this enclosure, and one is not allowed to feed them. Exact polar opposite of our Mishnah. So again, one option is to just simply say two different opinions, but the Gemara particularly likes to kind of bring everything together and say, oh no, really they're not arguing. Kasha chaya chaya, kasha alfota alfot. So first they just spell out the problem, both with birds and with undomesticated animals. There's a contradiction. So the reason they split it and say that is because the answer is going to be a split answer. It's going to be different for each case. So bishlama chaya chaya lo kasha. We're going to much more easily have an answer for the animal case. Why? We can easily say Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbanan. We can easily say one holds like Rabbi Yehuda, one holds like the rabbis. We don't yet know what those opinions are, but the answer simply being there's a debate among Tanaim about this. And therefore, exactly, that's what I said before, which is you could just say there are two different Tanaitic opinions. The Gemara doesn't like to say that unless they have proof that there are actually two different Tanaitic opinions. So we're going to now show that there's a machloket. Now, the machloket is a different topic. It's still about trapping, and it's not about what type of trapping is permitted on Yantif. It's about if you trap in this kind of way on Shabbat, are you liable? Which basically is going to mean, is this considered trapping or is it not considered trapping? So let's see the machloket. It's not as it says in the Mishnah Masechet Shabbat. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Hatzad Sipor Lemigdal Utzvi Labayit Chayat. If a bird runs into a tower, here they really mean, most people explain it like a closet. A bird runs into a closet and you close the door of the closet. Okay? Have you trapped that bird? Right? You didn't, first of all, right? Well, let's not even talk about intent, but basically, he goes in and you close that door. That's basically trapping because the animal, right? The bird is now in this closet where he's basically trapped. Utzvi labayit, if a deer wanders into your house and you close the door on it, you basically trapped it in your house. It's considered trapped. Now, this is Rabbi Yehuda. What can you derive from Rabbi Yehuda's opinion? He didn't say a deer into a beibal, which is an outdoor enclosure space. He said into your house, which seems to imply what? Labayit hu demechayav, aval lebeibarin lo. Sounds like he's saying in your house it would be trapped, but not if it was in a beibar. Now take that to us. What he's trying to say is if one closes the door to an enclosure that's presumably like an outside enclosure for animals on a deer, you're not going to be liable. Okay, a deer is a type of chaya, which means if you're not liable on Shabbat, it means for Yantif, if it was in this enclosure before Yantif, it wasn't considered trapped. If it wasn't considered trapped, then you're not allowed to take it from the beibar and slaughter it, because by taking it, you're basically considered capturing it, okay, trapping it. So basically, right, we take this concept of when you're liable for Shabbat would mean that in that kind of scenario, if it was already in a beibar and you want to now take it to slaughter it, you're trapping the animal because it wasn't considered trapped beforehand. So it's not the same machloket, but it's the same idea. Is it trapped in a beibar? Is it not trapped in a beibar? And so that would match, right? Again, what would this match? This would match the Beitzah, because the Beitzah said you can't take an animal from a beibar on Yantif because you're trapping it, because it wasn't considered trapped from before, because closing it in a beibar is not considered trapped. But our Mishnah that says once it's in the beibar, it's already considered trapped, is Chachamim. And here's what Chachamim said. Chachamim obrim tzipor lemigdal utzvi leginar lechatzer lebeibarin. If you close in its tzvi, right, the tzipori says the same thing as Rabbi Yehuda. into a closet type thing. But it's tzvi, if you enclose it in a garden, in a courtyard, or in a bebar, in this place where the animals live, then that's considered trapping for Masechet Shabbat, right? For you're liable on Shabbat for that. And therefore on Yantif, if it was done before Yantif, it would already be trapped. You'd be allowed to take it from there. So that's our Mishnah. So the first answer we've resolved, the chaya, one is Rabbi Yehuda, one is the rabbis, no problem. But ela ofot kasha, but with the birds, you can't say the same thing because Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis say the exact same thing about the bird. Nobody thinks a bird is trapped in a beibar. So that would explain, right? That would explain that would explain the Beitzah, right? If this oaf is in a beibar, it's not considered trapped, so you can't trap it there on Shabbos, in which case also, right, on Yantif, you wouldn't be able to take it from there because it's not yet trapped. Whereas our Mishnah says you could take a bird from the beibarim. So how does it permit that? So really our Mishnah is problematic. V'chitema is an intro to a possible answer that the Gemara is going to reject. If you want to say, hanami lo kasha, that's also not difficult because you could say, it depends what type of beibal. Ha bebebar mekureh, ha bebebar she'eno mekureh. One is with a ceiling and one is without a ceiling, right? We all know birds, right? If you capture a tzvi, a deer, it doesn't matter if it has a roof on it or not, because he's not jumping that high, right? Assuming the wall is high enough, he can't jump out of it. But a bird, right, it would make a big difference if it's covered or not covered. So maybe the Beitzah, when it said you can't take a bird from a beibar, was talking about one without a roof or a ceiling. And our Mishnah was talking about one with a ceiling. Once it has a ceiling, it's already considered trapped and you can take it from there. However, they're going to reject that. And they're going to say, the habayit kiv bebar mekureh dami ubein l'Rabbi Yehuda bein l'Rabbanan sipur l'migdal in the bayit lo. Notice what they said about the bird. The bird is only considered trapped in a closet type thing, but not in a house. In a house, right? It could have used house. It used house when it referred to the deer. Didn't use house when it referred to the bird, right? Imagine there's a bird in your house. Try to catch that bird. Not very simple, right? So a ceiling or a roof doesn't make any bit of a difference when it comes to a bird. So you can't suggest that that's the distinction between the Mishnah and the Beitzah, that the situation was a different situation. So they, in the end, are going to answer it really is a different situation, but the difference is not in which type of beibar, it's which type of bird. Okay, there's different kinds of birds. Certain birds are easier to capture and certain birds are less easy to capture. So now we're going to say, Amar Rabba bar Avuna. He answers then, Hacha b'tzipor dror askinan, like a free bird, a bird that flies everywhere. Okay, and we'll talk about in a minute how they define that. She'ena mekabelet marut. This kind of bird doesn't accept any sort of authority. Okay, so Ditana debe Rabbi Yishmael. How do we know this? And we're going to explain the etymology of the word. Lamani kashma tzipor dror, shedara babayit kibesadeh. Dror from the lashon of dal. Dal is to live, it dwells. It dwells in the house like it dwells in the field, right? In the field, birds roam freely. Some birds in a house will act like birds in a house, right? They won't fly everywhere. They'll be more controlled. This is a bird that lives in your house the same way it would live in the fields and is basically impossible to trap within a house. That kind of bird you can't capture on Yantif from in your house. However, you could trap a different kind of bird that was in your house because it's already considered trapped from before. Okay, so now the Gemara says, okay, well, if already, okay, let's just review. We had a contradiction between birds and undomesticated animals. Undomesticated animals, we explained by saying, oh, it's a machloket tanai, right? One matches one opinion, one matches the other. When it came to the bird, we didn't have that option. So what did we say? We said the situation is different. The type, first we tried to say the type of enclosure is different. We said that doesn't work. It must be the type of bird. So now the Gemara says, well, if you're already distinguishing type of bird and that the reality of each Beitzah is different, then why don't we say the same thing when it comes to the undomesticated animal? Don't try to answer, oh, this follows one approach and this follows a different approach. Why don't we use the same type of answer we just used? But it won't be exactly the same type of answer because we're not going to distinguish between which type of chaya, that would be the same. But we're going to distinguish the way they wanted to distinguish about what type of beibal. So why don't we say, ha bebar katan, ha bebar gadol. It's all a matter of what size the enclosure was. If it was a huge enclosure, then the animal isn't considered trapped. If it's a small enclosure, then the animal will be considered trapped and one will be allowed to do it on Yantif. So our Mishnah is a Bebar Katan. The Beitzah, which says you can't capture it, is a Bebar Gadol. And then the Gemara just wants to know, Hechidami Bebar Katan, Hechidami Bebar Gadol, right? What's the size? You would expect them to give you a size, right? But they don't give you a size. They don't say, 50 cubits, or remember all those sizes from Eruvin. It's not the answer they give. What do they say? Rav Ashi is going to give 3 answers. Amar Rav Ashi, Kol hecha diraita abatra. In a case where you would run after the animal, umatele b'chad shichya, and you could get it in one stoop, right? Like you stoop down and can catch it in one go. That's considered a Bebar Katan. That's already considered, right? That you're not really capturing it. It's already trapped, right? That's a better word. Thank you. Lunge, right? Like one lunge. Inami, okay, but if not, right? The idach Bebar Gadol, any bigger than that, where it's going to basically make it more than one lunge, you're not going to be able to get it just in one lunge, would be a problem. Inami, alternatively, kol hechadika ukse Bebar Gadol. If it has corners and places where the animal can hide, that's a Bebar Gadol, because already it's going to be harder to trap the animal. But if it doesn't have the idach, if it doesn't have that Bebar Katan, doesn't have all those corners and places the animal can hide, then it's called a Bebar Katan. Inami, third option, kol hecha, and this is more the size, but again, they don't define it by size, right? The other two defined it by not necessarily, a clear-cut size, just more dependent on also which kind of animal it is, how easy it is to catch, was the first. The second was, are there hiding places? The third is the size, which is kol hecha denafle tula dekatle ahadade. If the shadows of each wall reach the other wall, that's a size issue, right? Then it's a Bebar Katan, v'idach Bebar Gadol. Okay, if it's any bigger than that, then it's a Bebar Gadol. What's interesting is they don't talk about what time of day the shadows, right? Shadows are different lengths at different times of day. Anyway, okay, right? It's not a very clear-cut answer. That's what I want to point out, right? Surprising that he doesn't give a specific size. Rashbag Omer. Now we're going back to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in the Mishnah, who said Lo kol bebarim shavim. And remember, we said it's not clear. Is he coming to define Tanakama or disagree with him? So Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yosef quotes the name of Yehuda and the name of Shmuel. Halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. We paskin like him. So comes Abaye, who was a student of Rav Yosef, and says, Amar Abaye, Halacha Michlal de Pligi. Are you trying? But when you say the halacha is like so and so, that seems to imply that they disagree. So he says to him, "Are you reading the Mishnah as if Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees with Tanakama, and the Tanakama doesn't have the same definition?" As I said, it wasn't so clear. So comes Abai and he says, the fact that you're saying the halacha is like him, it sounds to me like you're saying he disagrees. Is that what you're saying? To which Rav Yosef answers an interesting answer. Amarle umayla nafka lachmina. What do you care, right? What's the ramification? If I'm telling you the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, so what's the difference if Tanakama disagrees with him or not? The halacha is like him anyway. So almost like he's avoiding the question, almost like he doesn't want to say the answer. He doesn't know the answer. We don't know. But he's basically saying, why do you care? What's the difference? To which Abaye has a great answer, which is Amarle, and this has come up a few times before in the Gemara. Gemara gemor zemorta tehe. Okay, there's different ways of understanding this. Zemorta could either be a song, or it could be a type of bird called a zamir. So either he's saying, again, there's a whole bunch of different interpretations. I'll give you 2. Gemara, you're learning the Gemara. When you learn the Gemara, is it just a song, right? Often we sing songs and we have no idea. We don't pay attention to the words, right? You might hear your kids singing some songs. You listen and you say, what kind of words are you saying? Do you realize what you're talking about, right? So people don't even pay attention to the words often in songs. So he's saying, is that the way you're treating the Gemara, that you're just kind of reciting it as if you don't know what things mean, right? And don't you want to know what the Mishnah means? It's true. Maybe there's no practical ramification, but it's not all about, right? This is good marketing for Daf Yomi, right? It's not all about what the law is. It's about understanding what did each person say. So it shouldn't become like just a song that you sing without paying attention to what it means. Or a zmorat, right? If it's a bird, right? The birds just kind of, talk, but don't necessarily understand what they're saying, or we don't understand what they mean, but right, just sounds like chitter chatter. So again, it's the same idea. You're just making it like chitter chatter, and you're not really understanding what you're saying. And Abaye, is he can't believe that Rav Yosef doesn't care about this. So that's how the story ends. We don't have Rav Yosef's response. It's interesting also, since Rav Yosef is his rabbi, right? It sounds like a bit of a disrespectful type of retort to him. Okay. Zehakla, which teaches you a little bit about the relationship Abaye had with Rav Yosef. Remember also, there's many times where Rav Yosef forgets things, and Abaye says, but you're the one who told us this, right? Which also, again, there's a way to say it nicely, there's a way to say it more respectfully, right? But there's a little bit of, maybe he reached a point in his relationship with him where he was able to engage in arguing with him. It's also partly Abaye's personality, right? Rabba also is constantly questioning Rabba, who is his adopted father and teacher. And he's constantly throwing questions back at him all the time. How could you say this? How could you say that, right? He was a bit of a tough guy, and had no problem asking questions and sometimes in a little bit of a disrespectful manner. Again, you always have to be there to understand the tone in which it was said and how it was said to figure out whether it's really disrespectful, right? My mother always said, right, it's how you say it, not what you say. Okay, Zakla. So now he said, his rule is whatever's missing tzeda, right? Which we said when we learned the Mishnah, first of all, we didn't understand. Was he disagreeing with Tanakama? Second of all, we didn't understand what does it mean to be mechusar tzeda. So we're going to have a whole discussion about this right now. So what does it mean? It's missing trapping, meaning it still needs to be trapped. So we know what it means, but we don't know where we draw the line. Just like we don't know where we draw the line between the Bar Katan and the Bar Gadol. There's a lot of clarifications today in the Gemara. So Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, same, right? Same three people. Rav Yosef says the name of Rav Yehuda, who says the name of Shmuel. Kol she'omer havei mitzudah nitzudena. If you have to say, bring me a trap and I will capture it, or bring me a net, or bring me whatever it is, that's considered mechusar tzeda. If you don't need equipment, it sounds like, then maybe not. So Amarle Abaye, again, Abaye comes in with his question, and he says, but I have a question against this. V'havazim, v'tarnagolim, she'omrim, havei mitzudah nitzudena. Okay, let's take an example where you have to bring a trap to trap them. What would that be? Geese, roosters, right? Chickens, and right, in both those cases, you do bring traps to trap them. Now, that would imply that one can't capture them, trap them on Yantif. However, Vitanya, it says in a Beitzah, Hatzad avazim v'tarnagolim v'yornei hardei saot, which is a type of doves that are more domesticated doves. Patur, okay, there's a whole debate about what the etymology of the word is. I'm not going to get into that now, but the point is they're domesticated doves that are different from the ones we learned in the beginning of the Masechet. Yonei Shovach and Yonei Aliyah, we're going to get to them soon, the ones who live up in the attics or in the dovecotes that basically aren't really owned. These are all things that kind of live in people's property, okay? If you trap those, patur, you're exempt. So what? Here you have to bring traps to trap them, and yet you're exempt. So that proves that's not a good definition. So Amar Rav Huna, Amar Shmuel. So Rav Huna said the name of Shmuel. There's a difference between those. Why? Halalu ba'in lekluvan la'erev, halalu ein ba'in lekluvan la'erev. So right now the distinction is going to be, well, you need number one, the criteria that you have to say havei mitzudah nitzudena. Number two, they're animals or birds that don't go back to their cages at night. In other words, if you have to bring a trap to trap them, but they always go back to their cages at night, like the tarnagolim and avazim, then you're exempt. But if they're like other animals that you have to trap them and they don't go back to their cages at night, then you're going to be liable. Okay, then you're not going to be able to trap them on Yantif. But the Gemara doesn't like that. That's not enough of a distinction yet. Okay, so we started with one distinction. We now made it has to have two criteria. Now we're going to add a third, because he's going to say, but the ones who live in the dovecotes and in the attics, they also come back to, right? Remember, we talked about that. You could designate the bird and assume next day if he's in his nest, you can assume that bird is the one you designated yesterday. They also come back to their nests. So what do we say about them? Right. So according to your definition, you should be able to trap them on Yantif. But it says here, Vitanya hatzad yonei shovach v'yonei aliyah v'tziporim shekininu b'tzpchim babirot chayav. If you capture birds in a dovecote or birds in the attics or birds that nested in these utensils that they would stick in the walls of palaces, then you're liable. So they're not considered trapped already. So Ela Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar Shmuel. So third modification, halal ba'in lekluvan la'erev u'mezonotan alecha. Halal ba'in lekluvan la'erev ve'e mezonotan alecha. There's a difference between, you need three criteria, right? One, you need to bring a trap to capture them. Number two, right? Or I would say like this, even if they go back to their nests at night, unless you're mizonotan alecha, they're dependent on you for food. But if they're dependent on you for food, then they're considered trapped already. If they're not dependent on you for food, then they're not considered trapped. Okay, and it's unclear exactly why, what the connection is, right? Maybe because they're dependent on you for food, so they won't run away when you try to capture them, right? They're kind of with you, or maybe they were already designated from before, but then even still then, it's not 100% clear how that affects it. So now they're going to say a different answer though. Rav Meri Amar, Hane avide l'ribuye, v'hane lo avide l'ribuye. He gives a different answer, which is the yonei, shovach, and all those which are forbidden to capture will run away when you try to capture them. And the geese and the roosters will not run away when you try to capture them. To which the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Kulunami avide l'ribuye. Even if you have a rooster in your house, you go to catch it, right? They're going to run away from you also. Just because he's part of your household doesn't mean he's going to not run away from you. So the answer, no, what I meant is they're going to run back when you chase them. Where are they going to go? Back to where they dwell in their cage or whatever it is. Whereas the Yonei, Shabach, and Yonei Aliyah, if you try to catch them, they're going to run far away. They're not going to stay in there. They're not going to go back to their nests. They're going to run far away. So that's the difference. Okay, so we've come up with certain differences. What we started with was to say the difference, right? What is mechusar tzeidah? If you have to bring traps to capture them. But then we said that wasn't enough, because even if you have to bring traps, it depends on some other circumstances as well, whether they dwell right in your dwelling somewhere, right, somewhere on your property, or right, they're not really considered yours, and whether they're likely to run back to their coup or not run back. Okay. Next Mishnah. Mitsudat chaya va'of v'dagim she'asa'am me'erev Yom Tov lo yitol mehem b'Yom Tov ela in ken yodea shenitzodu me'erev Yom Tov. You put out traps before Yom Tov, but now the question is, when did the animal get trapped? The fact that you put out the trap before Yom Tov is good. You took care of it before Yom Tov, but the animal, again, we're going to get into muktzah issues. The animal wasn't designated since it wasn't trapped until Yom Tov. When Yom Tov came in, it was muktzah, and if it's muktzah, then you can't eat it or anything. So if you show up on Yom Tov morning and you find an animal in the trap that you set, what's the situation, right? Can you assume it was trapped yesterday, or maybe it wasn't? We don't know. So can you eat it or not? So the Mishnah comes and says, if you put out these traps from Erev Yom Tov, you can't take the animal from there on Yom Tov unless you know for sure that it was captured before Yom Tov. Okay, you have to know that for sure, meaning safek, what we're going to call the words of the Gemara soon, safek muchan, if it was a safek, whether it was already prepared and ready for you from before Yom Tov, asul. There was a case where a Gentile, Hevi degim leRabban Gamliel, he brought fish on Yom Tov to Rabban Gamliel. Va'amar mutarin he. Now Rabban Gamliel had no idea. Did he catch this fish today, or did he catch it yesterday? Right? It's kind of similar to if you put out your trap, and right, it wasn't anything that you did, but he wasn't sure, and he said, "Mutarim him. I can actually eat these even though they're safek." And Ela she'ein ritzoni lekabel himenu. But the truth is, I don't want to accept it from him. Some people explain, because I don't like this guy at all, and I don't want to accept any gift from him. But according to the bottom line halacha, I really could. So which the Gemara immediately asks, Ma'aseh stole? This action that Rabban Gamliel, right, the story about Rabban Gamliel seems to contradict what the first part of the Mishnah said. Because, right, and if it did, it's a little bit weird, because it should have told you Rabban Gamliel disagrees. And there was a case with Rabban Gamliel where he permitted this, right, even though he himself didn't take it, but for other reasons, but he actually permitted it. So the Gemara says, yeah, in fact, it's missing words. The Mishnah is missing words. It should read like this. Safek muchan asur, which is just a paraphrasing of Tanakama's opinion, as I said. But only if you know for sure it was captured yesterday, you can. But if it's a doubt and you don't know when it was captured, you can't. To which Rabban Gamliel matil. These are the words that are missing. Rabban Gamliel permits in a case like that. And Maaseh Nami, and there was a case where it happened with a Gentile, Shevi Dagim Rabban Gamliel, V'amar mutarin, and Rabban Gamliel said, really, these are permitted to me. Ela she'ein ritzoni lekabel himenu, but I don't like this guy. I don't want to accept any gifts from him. To which Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, ein halacha Rabban Gamliel. To which he says, we don't paskin. Okay, so Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, we don't paskin like Rabban Gamliel. We don't permit this kind of thing unless you know for sure it was from yesterday. You cannot have it on Yom Tov. That's the first version of what Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. We're going to see 3 versions of where he said halacha is like so-and-so. In the end, the conclusion of all 3 is the same, which is if we're not sure if it was ready from before Yantif, it's forbidden, okay? The first time he said it was, and the first version is that he said it on our Mishnah and said we don't hold like Rabban Gamliel. Some people said that he said it on the following Beitzah, not on our Mishnah, but on the following Beitzah, Detanya. Safek Muchan, Rabban Gamliel Matil, Rabbi Yoshua Osel. And Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Halakha Rabbi Yoshua. It was a different Beitzah that basically says the same thing as our Mishnah. It's just instead of saying Tanakama versus Rabban Gamliel, it says Rabban Gamliel versus Rabbi Yoshua. And to that, he came and said, Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, the halacha is like Rabbi Yoshua, that a suffix situation about this is forbidden. Okay? Again, same conclusion. It's just a matter who said it. One could assume why they might have had an issue with the Mishnah, which is why would you have to say we don't hold like Rabban Gamliel when he's not the majority opinion? Usually we hold like Tanakama. Could be because the Gemara brought a case. Sometimes when they bring a case, that makes it stronger. But it's a little strange because we always hold like the majority. So maybe that's why you would say the second version. The next version, the third and last, is Ika Demane Laha. To get to the last version, we're going to have to first bring this Beitzah, explain a contradiction in the Beitzah, and only at the end we're going to see who he holds like, and we're going to see that again, the same thing. The conclusion is, if you're not sure, it's forbidden. Shochatim min hanagarim b'yom tov. So according to this Beitzah, first we see Tanakama, you're allowed to slaughter an animal that was already in a nagarim, which is another word for a beibarim, okay, an enclosed area. Aval, lo min hareshatot u'min hamichmorot, but not from nets or traps, okay? You can't take animals from nets or traps at all, it sounds like. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, it depends. He says the following, Ba'u mitza'am mekulkalim me'erev yom tov. If you came and you saw the trap was messed up from before Yantif, which what happens when it captures someone, right? The trap usually is finished. If you find it messed up from Erev Yom Tov, Erev Yom Tov nitzodu mutarim. Then you can know that it was already from Erev Yantif. It was captured and it's permitted, which would then imply what? If it's safek, it would be forbidden, right? But then his second line confuses us because then he says, however, if Ba'u, and as he brings the flip case, now the flip case you would assume would be, you're not sure, but that's not the flip case. The flip case is, Ba'u mitza'am mekukalim b'yom tov. But if you came and found them messed up on Yom Tov, and they weren't messed up Erev Yom Tov, b'yadua sheb'yom tov nitzodu v'asurim. Then you can know for sure that they were trapped on Yantif, in which case you're not permitted to eat them. Which would then imply, but if you're not sure, it would be okay. So this is a classic example where they bring 2 opposite cases, but the suffix, right? In other words, what you can infer from each case is that from one, you would infer the suffix is forbidden, and the other one you would infer it, but if you're not sure, you can actually permit it. So that's what the Gemara is going to say. Hagufa Kashya, this whole source, right? This opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar makes no sense. It contradicts itself. How so? So now we'll read it explicitly. That was the first line he said. If you come and find it on Yantif, on Erev Yantif, messed up, then you know that it was already captured from Erev Yantif. So Tama, here's the inference. Tama, the reason is because you came and you found it messed up. Hasveka, but if it was a doubt and you didn't find it messed up and you don't know when it got captured or not, it would be asurin, it would be forbidden, right? Which is only permitted because you know for sure. However, Ema Seifa, look at the last line. If you find it on Yantiv, then then you know for sure it was captured on Yantiv. Right? It's because you came and you found it messed up on Yantiv. Hasveka, but if it was a doubt and you're not sure, you can assume it would be permitted. So how do we reconcile this contradiction? To which the Gemara says, read it like this. Hachikama. Okay, we're going to explain that the second line comes to explain the first line. If you found it messed up Erev Yom Tov, you can then assume that for sure it was captured Erev Yom Tov. Hasveka, the inference is though, if it's a doubt, then what? A suffix case, if you're not sure, it's like a case where you know for sure it was captured on Yom Tov. So the second part is coming to talk about the doubt. The second part sounds like it's talking about for sure it was captured on Yantif. So what are they saying? If it's a doubt, you treat it as if it was for sure captured on Yantif, and it's forbidden. So the conclusion after raising this contradiction of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is that what he holds is safek asur, right? If you're not sure, it's going to be forbidden. And then, if you remember, how did we get here? We were saying there were three versions of Rabbi Yehuda who said the name of Shmuel, that safek muchan is asur. Was he saying it on our Mishnah? Halach is not like Rabban Gamliel. Or was he saying it on the Beitzah? The halach is like Rabbi Yoshua against Rabban Gamliel. Or was he saying it here? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel halacha ke Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who basically says if it's a doubt, we're going to treat it as if it's forbidden, as if it was definitely captured on Yantif. So either which way, Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel says it, says that safek, you're not sure if it was captured before Yantif or not, it's forbidden, right? Why do we have to go through these three opinions? So I'll quote you back what Abaye said, which is, right, Gemara is a mortate, right? You don't want to just chant things and say, oh, this is what he holds, but you want to see where he actually said it, right? Even if there's not necessarily any halachic ramifications to it. Okay, now we're going to go with what Rabban Gamliel said. He said, according to the law, mutarim hem, they're permitted. Permitted for what? Mutarim lemai. Rav Amar mutarim lekabel. You can accept this gift from the Gentile. However, you can't eat them. In other words, it's not muktzah. Okay, because again, what are we talking about here? Was it prepared from yesterday? Prepared from yesterday already sounds like a muktzah issue. Right? Things that you set aside and don't ever plan to use, you can't use. So if a Gentile brings you something you were never planning to have, right? And it was not even captured, so you couldn't have potentially gotten it yesterday. Then right, it's no good. So Rav says, mutarin lekabel, you can accept the gift. It's not muktzah, but you can't eat it. Levi Amar mutarin ba'achila. Levi says, no, if mutarin, it means they're mutarin, they're not muktzah, and you can eat them. So here's a good line of Rav, which you might think seems disconnected, but wait till you hear how he connects it. Amar Rav, la'olam al yimna adam atzmo mi beit hamidrash afilu sha'a achat. Never miss a day in the Beit Midrash, okay? Not even an hour in the Beit Midrash, okay? Make sure, right? What if you have to go to the bathroom, right? So maybe go during the breaks, okay, right? Teachers always say, don't go in the middle of class to the bathroom, go during the break. It says, don't ever miss an hour in the Beit Midrash. Why? So I'll tell you a story, he says. Ana Levi, me and Levi, Habinan Kamei de Rebbe, we were in Rebbe's Shiur, Ki Amra lahashmata, when he was talking specifically about this mission of Rabban Gamliel. Be'orta, in the morning, Amar mutarin ba'achila, he said they're permitted to be eaten. Beitzah Amar mutarin lekabel, but by the afternoon he had changed his mind, and he said you can only accept the gift, but you can't eat it on Yantif. To which he said, Ana dehave be midrasha hadrebe. So I was at the Beit Midrash all day. I heard what he said in the morning, and I heard what he said in the afternoon, and therefore my opinion is based on what Rebbe said. But Levi, to lo have be midrasha lo hadrebe. But Levi was not in the Beit Midrash, and he did not change his mind because he missed Rebbe saying, right? He missed that part. There weren't podcasts in those days where you could listen to the shiur later and make it up, and there weren't, right? None of that. He never heard that. So he heard Rebbe say the following, and he never changed his mind about it, even though he was basing himself on Rebbe, and Rebbe himself changed his mind. So we basically have a big problem here, right? And he says, from this we learn, don't ever leave the Beit Midrash, even for 1 minute, because you're going to miss, right? You might miss something very important. So that's our first question on Levi, right? How could you say this, Levi? It's not really what Rebbe said, right? You're basing yourself on Rebbe, but Rebbe retracted his statement. Meitide, but now we're going to bring another contradiction to Levi. Nochri shevi doron liYisrael, afilu dagim hamefulamim uperot b'nei yomam mutarim. A Gentile who brings a gift to a Jew, even if they're very fresh fish, sounds like they were captured today, or perot b'nei yoman mutarim, or fruits that were picked from that day, they're permitted. Now, permitted for what? Bishlam alamanda amro mutarim lekabel shapir. What they're going to basically say is, it can't possibly be that you can accept this gift and eat it. So if we're going to say you can do something with it, it must be if we're going to choose between eating and carrying, we're going to assume it's carrying, we're going to permit it, right? We're going to say it's not muktzah, but so bishlam alamanda amru mutarin lekabel, you can accept the gift but not eat it, right? That makes sense. Aval alamanda amar mutarin ba'achila, perot b'nei yomam misharu ba'achila. How could you eat fruits that were just picked from a tree today, even though you didn't pick them, a Gentile picked them, you're not allowed to eat that kind of thing, right? You can't have anything. To which the Gemara says, you don't make any sense what you just said, your question. They're not permitted to be carried either. In other words, the logic of the Gemara doesn't really make sense either, because the logic of this question, because if they were picked today, not only are you forbidden to eat them, but it's also muktzah. We learned that, right? That's no law, right? It was something that was attached and totally useless to you before Yantif started. So you can't use them either. You can't carry them. You can't do anything with them. So this whole statement is a little bit difficult and must be understood a little bit differently than the simple reading. So this doesn't go against Levi, who says they're permitted to eat, because really no distinction should be made here, and this should be forbidden for both. Therefore, it must be they're not really fresh fish like you thought, and they're not really fruits that were picked that day, even though it sounds like it from the simple reading. This is a good example where they take a Beitzah that the simple reading just seems so not halachic to them that they basically change what it means, even though the simple reading really does seem to indicate this is not a problem. So they say, it's fish that are red, and fruits that were pickled, okay, that were preserved, maybe is a better way to say it. Fruits that were preserved, or vegetables that were preserved, that's what we mean. So what does it mean? It means they look fresh, but they're not really fresh, okay? What's with the fish and the red? Nobody really fully understands it. Some people explain, the Ra explains that it's fish, it's red is usually a sign, right? The blood's flowing, and it's usually you just pick the fish, there's like red spots on it, and it looks, right, like very fresh. Here, it must be a fish that has red spots on it that makes it look like it's fresh, but it's not really, okay? Which then makes the Beitzah very strange. To say that's the simple reading of the Beitzah is definitely a difficult reading, but that's how the Gemara explains it, because I can't really understand it any other way. So it must be things that have an appearance that they're fresh, and the point is, you don't have to worry that they really are fresh, because these seem to be actually other reasons why they look fresh, even though they're not really fresh. So that was a question on Levi, but we resolved the question. So now we're going to say, Amar Rav Papa, last thing for today. Hilchata, the halacha is, I skipped one line. Amai kari lehu b'nei yoman. So if they're fruits that, the Beitzah said, b'nei yoman, meaning they were picked today. So why do they call them they were picked today? The reason is, shein ke'ein b'nei yoman, they look like they were picked today. That's why. In other words, they taste so fresh. Okay, and that's the idea. So Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa now says, Hilchata, the halacha is, now we're going to go back to this concept of a Gentile bringing you a gift on Yantif. Now the issue is, what if you don't know when he picked it? Okay, he brings you a fruit basket. You have no idea when were these fruits picked. So if let's say, okay, it's the beginning of lemon season, but most of the lemons are still on the tree, and he brings you a bowl of lemons. So you can assume that he picked them today, because most of them were on the tree before Yantif, and therefore it's forbidden. And in the evening, once Shabbos is over, or Yantif is over, you still have to wait. That means you have to wait the amount of time we learned this Masechet Shabbat that it would take for them to pick a new set of them, right? To pick them. And if most of them are already picked off the tree, it's the end of the season. You still have to worry about Isur Tchumen, that he brought it outside the Tchum, because again, it wasn't prepared for you. Anything outside Tchum, since you can't go outside Tchum, it's a problem. But if he comes for you, it's actually, if he came from outside the Tchum to bring something to you, you can't eat it on Shabbat, but somebody else can. That's very fascinating. Why is this? So two different reasons given. One is that Tchumen anyway is only Rabbanit, so we can be lenient about it. There's a debate about Tchumen, is it Rabbanit or Oraita? Or you can say, because Tchumen is the type of thing that differs with different people. Remember, we talked about this, that I can't access things. We learned this in Masechet Shabbat or in Eruvin, I think. Things that are outside my Tchum, I can't reach, but you can reach them, right? We had some case about concurrence, these circles, right, that overlapped, and this one could go there, and that one could go there. Tchumen in general is something where we differentiate with different people. It's not like it's something that's usher in general. It's just usher to me because it's outside of my range. So because of that, we can even give it to someone who lived in my Tchum, but because Tchumen already has differentiation, since he didn't bring it for that person, it's okay. I just want to finish with three reasons as to what this issue is with getting a gift from a Gentile. So one possible, Rashi says it's mishum muktzah, which is kind of how we explained it, because it's outside the tchum, or because it was on the tree, right? It wasn't designated for you before, and therefore it's muktzah for you. But some people say that's not the issue. Rabbeinu Meshulam says the issue is it's a davar sheyesh lo matirin, which we talked about, right? Tomorrow it'll be permitted, so why don't you just leave it for today? Not that it's 100% forbidden, but better to wait till it's actually going to be fully permitted. The third option is the Ra'ah, who basically says that this is a problem because of Amira La'akum. Now, that means you're not allowed to tell a Gentile to do something for you. Now, you didn't tell the Gentile. They decided to bring you a gift, so it's not Amira La'akum. But if they do that for you today, you might ask them next time, can you bring me something? So better off to avoid, right, accepting these gifts because of we don't want you to tell the Gentile to do something that's forbidden to you. Right? If it wasn't on the tree, it's not a problem at all. But if it was on the tree, we don't want to allow it because maybe then you'll tell them to pick your fruits next week and that's forbidden. So those are possible issues. It's not 100% clear what the issue is and why it's forbidden. So here are some possible reasons. With that, we'll finish for today. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Everybody.